Hi Janelle.
Hi Joe, how are you?
Good. And welcome to you, listener, to another episode of the Brave Stories podcast brought to you by Brave and Lucky.
Yes, we hope you've been enjoying it so far. This is episode 4.
Episode 4.
Yeah, it means we've already done 3.
Wow. And look at us, if you're watching handheld today.
Yes, we got rid of the cookbooks and board games holding up our mics.
We had a lot of cookbooks and board games last time. We're just trying different things. We're just getting started, so
exactly. We want to make sure you can hear us clearly.
Yes, exactly. And so today, what's the topic, Janelle?
Today we are continuing in our series about what is bravery, talking about another value, part of our company, which brings to you Brave Stories, which is Brave and Lucky.
Brave and Lucky.
Value number 2, you're never really ready.
You're never really ready. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And you did mention it, Janelle. Maybe we should just quickly touch on that.
Mm-hmm.
This podcast, if you don't know, brought to you by Brave and Lucky, underwear for the biggest days of your life.
Exactly.
It's a business we're building, and to go alongside it, we started this podcast to talk about bravery.
Exactly, and to tell people's brave stories. The idea is we'll interview different people, tell real life stories, get into the meaningfulness, of course, with a splash of humour.
Yes, love that. Okay, Janelle, so in this 4th episode, I thought, let's just cover a couple of things that people might be wondering about before we get into it.
Good idea.
Before we get into You're Never Really Ready.
Okay.
First of all, there's a third person on the cover art of this podcast that people might be wondering, who is that person?
That's a great question.
Do you want to tell?
Yes, that person is our partner, Monica. She is part of the Brave and Lucky team.
Yes.
She helps us with all of our graphic design, art direction. Right now, I've forgotten her official title.
No, but she's basically the creative genius behind Brave and Lucky.
Exactly. So
Graphic
all of
design.
anything that looks really beautiful,
Yeah.
that's Monica.
She's got a marketing brain too.
She does, for
It's
sure.
genius.
And she
so,
helps us with that direction of what's the brand identity and all that good stuff as well.
Yes, so she's a friend we made here in Paris. She's since moved back to Australia. She lives in Sydney. But we work with her on the podcast. No, on the business.
Yes.
And we're going to be, she's going to be a part of the podcast. We're going to be interviewing her in the weeks to come. So it's just thought we'd let you know that that's who the third person is on the cover art.
Exactly. Monica.
And, yeah, in the meantime, if you did want to get to know her a little bit, you could go check out our vlog.
Yes.
What we're calling, it started as our weekly vlog, right? Now
we have high ambitions.
High ambitions. Now we're calling it our not so weekly vlog. It's on our YouTube channel, Brave and Lucky.
Yes.
Go check it out. It's essentially a vlog of us trying to build an underwear business from the ground up. Okay?
Exactly. It's real life,
Real
no
life.
makeup. I'm wearing a dressing gown a lot of the vlogs.
Yes. But it's good. It gives you a warts and all view, dressing gown and all view of what it is to build a side hustle business in Paris. Monica features a lot on that, so if you want to get to know her a little bit more, check out the vlog. You'll love it. That's all the housekeeping, I think, Janelle.
Right, okay, let's get into this, eh?
Let's get into this. Before we dive into the topic of today, though, we've got one of our recurring segments. Which one is it?
It is
Brave in the News. Okay, so this week on Bravery in the News, the idea behind this segment is that we cover kind of a story or someone in real life. I think both times now it's come from LinkedIn, scrolling the LinkedIn feed.
That is true.
And
it won't always be from LinkedIn.
It won't always be, but it's someone who's being brave in their everyday life. And we call it Brave in the News. So today is also from LinkedIn. I was scrolling LinkedIn a little while ago, Janelle, and this is a brilliant story from someone called Pratik Kapoor.
I'm glad you got the name this time.
Yes, because last time, if you didn't listen last time, I took a screenshot of the post and I accidentally cut out the person's name, so I could not remember who the post was from, but it was brilliant. Anyway, Pratik Kapoor, he is passionate about bringing people together to ... I also can't tell what it is. I've screenshotted it on LinkedIn. But anyway, here's the story. It's also flying themed, which you'll know was the first one as well. So I'll just read it out, and this is really brave, okay? And potentially quite topical for us, Janelle. Okay, ready? During a 10-hour flight, she was heading from Seoul, Korea to San Francisco, USA. This mother distributed more than 200 passengers on the plane a plastic bag for each one. The bag contains candy, chewing gum, and earplugs as a kind of advanced apology for using them in the event that her 4-month-old baby screamed during the flight. The bag also contained a message containing, "Hello, I am Jun Woo. I am 4 months old and today I'm travelling to America with my mom and grandmother for my aunt's outfit. I'm a little nervous and scared. This is my first flight in my life. It's normal for me to cry or cause some disturbance. I'll try to stay calm, but I can't promise you. Please use it. Please use it if my voice gets too loud. Enjoy your trip. Thank you. A culture of respecting the freedom of others, etc."
I love that. That's amazing.
There you go. So very brave from that
The baby or the mum?
mum.
The mum's brave, yeah.
And kind of smart brave, you know?
Yeah. That's clever because she knows it's going to be a tricky situation. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a... we all know that travelling with babies, that takes bravery. That's not an easy task.
Amen. And this is, that was quite topical because I thought, Janelle, that's actually going to be us. And at the end of this year, we're going to be trying to do that with our...
Yeah, the plan is to do a 24-hour flight with 2 5-month-old twins.
Yes.
So we might have to get the same idea and buy little bags full of treats for everyone on the plane as well.
Yeah. So yeah, Janelle is currently pregnant with twins. Right there. And that's going to be us at the end of the year. They're going to be born July, August, and we're going to try and do that at the end of the year. So maybe we need to do little packs.
I mean, it's a great idea. And shout out to any parent who has already travelled long distances with children. You are brave.
So brave.
Well done.
That is bravery. And
also, you know, we all know that the babies are going to cry. It's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
We're saying that more for ourselves right now.
Yes, we are. Okay, Janelle, let's get into today's topic.
Yeah, great. Well, we're going to start with a quote to kind of ease us in a bit into what is this
topic
value.
of today.
You're never really ready.
You're never really ready. That's what we're calling it. But what does that mean?
Yeah, so we have this quote by Hugh Laurie, which says this: "It's a terrible thing, I think, in life to wait until you're ready. I have this feeling now that actually no one is ever ready to do anything. There is almost no such thing as ready. There is only now. And you may as well do it now. Generally speaking, now is as good as time as any."
Good on you, Mr. Hugh Laurie.
I feel like he just really...
House. He was House.
Oh, no way, I didn't connect that.
There you go.
Oh my gosh, great connection.
So, you're never really ready, Janelle.
Yeah, I feel like that was a great explanation. What does that mean to you, Joe?
Well, thank you for asking. I think it just means, like, if you're waiting for the moment to do something when you feel ready, it's not going to arrive.
Yeah, exactly.
Or if it does, I don't know. Regardless, it's not the point.
Yeah.
Feeling ready is not the indicator of when you should step into doing something or giving something a go.
Yeah, it's kind of like that tomorrow never comes.
Tomorrow never comes.
Which actually, this is kind of topical. Tomorrow, Joe is running a marathon.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
in Paris. Do you feel ready for the marathon tomorrow?
But you're saying it won't come. Maybe it won't. Maybe I'll wake up.
Maybe tomorrow will never come. Well, tomorrow will never come. However, tomorrow will come in the sense of Sunday will come,
but
and the
marathon
marathon will come. But it'll be called today.
Love it.
And tomorrow, when it is today, will you be ready for your marathon?
Look, Janelle, the way I look at life is that you're never really ready. That was a great setup. No, but I think, look, that's a bit of a tangent, but I'm semi-ready, Janelle, for my marathon.
Okay, great.
But how do you know? I'm never really ready.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a cool little... I mean, we are going on a bit of a tangent and we'll come back around. But there is things... We're not saying... When we say you're never really ready, we're not saying that you can't prepare for something. Like, it is important to prepare and to practice. And there's a lot of situations in life where maybe, well, for example, you go to school for 13 years and then you go to college or university, whatever you call it, for another 3 or 4 years, 5 years, I don't know, 10 years, some people. And that's all really important timing to learn and to educate yourself and to prepare. So we're not saying that that is not important.
Yes.
There is a place for preparation.
There's a big place for preparation.
However, you can always keep preparing more.
You can. Like, preparation never ends, I guess. But there is a point at which, you know, whatever it is in your life, that step in your career, that move to a new country, that relationship, whatever, there's a point where you're going to have to step off the kind of cliff, right?
Yeah.
Or what feels like a cliff, maybe, and be like, even though I feel like maybe if I'd had one more year to like learn this, I just have to give it a go.
Jump in the deep end.
Yeah, because even that
Start
year
swimming.
later on, I bet you'd get to that point and you'd be like, oh, I know already.
Yeah, and I mean, just when you were saying that, I was thinking about like the longer I live, and I mean, I've only lived 29 years, I've got a lot more to live, hopefully, God willing. But I feel like the more you live and the more you learn about the world and about, I mean, there's so much to learn, you realize you know less and less actually as you start to educate yourself, right?
Yes.
So that's a real danger if you're like, I need to learn everything, because the more you learn, the more you realize you know nothing.
Yeah, it's a good point, Janelle. There's a great quote as well from this guy, Sir Richard Branson.
Oh, heard of him.
Okay, Sir Richard Branson, famous entrepreneur. And he said this thing that is really brilliant. He says, if somebody offers you an amazing opportunity, but you're not sure you can do it, say yes, then learn how to do it later.
Yeah.
That's
a
cool.
good one. Maybe that's why he became a billionaire.
Maybe it is.
Probably.
And it had me thinking, Janelle, about, this is probably quite a work-related thing, is that there's a whole stat around like people who don't apply for jobs unless they cover everything in the job description, right?
Yeah.
And this is a good, cool example of this, where it's like, and oftentimes what I've just found out on my phone here is that there's a split here between men and women,
Interesting.
where men apply for a job when they meet only 60% of the qualifications for that job, but women apply only if they meet 100% of them.
Wow.
So oftentimes they're listing lots of qualifications, and it's like, hey, you're never really ready.
Yeah.
Just give it a go.
Yeah. I wonder why. Why do you think that stat is so different between men and women?
Well, I think men maybe are less self-aware. I think a lot of people always say women need to be more confident.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of men need to be less confident.
I think it's probably a little bit of both, and unfortunately that probably comes back also, that stat, to just years and years of sexism where women haven't been encouraged to do things that they can't necessarily do, or I mean, I think there's level and level, or depth and depth. Sorry.
Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I think so. I grew up in a family where my parents definitely encouraged me to go out and do things, and to not, like, they really embraced this value of, well, as well, if you're never really ready. And I grew up with a dad who was an entrepreneur, so I saw him do a lot of things, just going out and dreaming big and just doing it. And so I think that my family environment encouraged me in that situation. But I definitely think that as a woman in the workplace, and I mean, this is a whole nother conversation that I'm sure we'll have many times, but there are challenges of, I can see how that if you see a job description and you don't meet all of those, it's very easy to think, oh well, I can't do that. Or like, they're not going to choose me, so why would I go for it?
Yeah.
Rather than like, I'm kick-ass, I could totally go for it.
I'm kick-ass.
I get it.
Love it. Janelle, at this point, just to bring it back down to the theme that we're talking about today, what is bravery? It is, you're never really ready, so just go for it. Thought we could discuss a few. There are 5, but maybe we just touch on a couple of these major fears and traps that stop us from trying new things in life. Okay, we found this online.
Yeah.
And I think it's a cool way to paint a picture of what are those things that stop us from feeling like we can step into something new and feeling like even though we're not ready, we can give it a go.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I guess the reason we're actually talking about this is that we believe that what we've seen is that unfortunately that people don't always just go for
Yes.
they don't actually go for things. I guess we never even talked about
No.
that this is actually
Totally.
a problem.
It's a problem. And a lot of times you meet, I know I've met people in my life, whether it's at work, different places, who are so smart and capable and able, but who are not, I don't know, it's hard for me to say why or whatever, but it's like, who you just sense are not doing things that they could be doing, or like at the level in their career or anything that they could be. Like if I take an example from work, it's like people who've sat in their job for like 10 years and they're at the same level, and it's like you could be like, I don't know, maybe that's not a big thing for everyone.
Yeah. But that's in one area in a job, but it's more than that. It's in making new friendships. It's in what other things? It's in everything that you can think about.
Yeah.
Is that
moving to a new city, maybe.
Yeah.
Having a new experience.
Yeah, learning. I don't know. There's so many. There's so many different.
There's so
different
many that
ways.
we can't even think.
We can't think of any right now because there's just so many. But yeah, whatever is important to you. For some people, success in career is not high priority, and that's fine. But maybe it's within your family about choosing to actually start making some traditions in your family, like maybe going away camping as a family or stuff like that. There's so many things that you can put off because you always have an excuse for it.
Yeah.
Of like, we're not ready for this because we don't have this, that, or the other. So we're going to talk a bit about some of these excuses and
some
things
of these
that come
excuses, some of the big buckets of these excuses. So the first one, Janelle, is analysis paralysis.
Ooh.
You might have heard this saying, but essentially, I'll just read a little bit here. So the most obvious challenge to this whole thing is analysis paralysis. There are two types of these kinds of scenarios. The first one is never getting from the research phase, behind the desk or like online or figuring out how you might do something, to conducting real life experiments of trying to do that thing. The second is never getting from validated learning to execution mode. So the first scenario is quite well known everywhere in life. You read about it, you talk about it, you think about it, but you never start doing it. And maybe we can stop there and just sort of focus on that. It's like analysis paralysis. It's a really big thing. A lot of times, say we're thinking, I think this was one for us maybe, and we're going to talk about it later, moving to France. Like, we'd been married for a few years, we'd talked about it for quite a long time, and we knew enough about how to do it, but at some point it was like, are we actually going to do it?
Yeah.
Because at some point you're like, you just have to go for it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, yeah, you can analyze all the good, bad, the risks, the things that were easy. You can make all the plans. But
yeah.
You got to make the decision.
And I remember having that conversation about that, like a pretty frank conversation of like, are we actually going to do this, or are we just talking about it all the time? Because we just come around to the same conversation about, this would be cool to do it one day. But are we actually going to do it?
Yeah, so I guess that's a good indicator to figure out whether you're stuck in this analysis paralysis, is whether there's something that you notice that you talk about a lot, but nothing's actually changed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Another one is dealing with uncertainty. To live an extraordinary life, you must do extraordinary things. Do you want to talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, so just to read a little bit of this, it's quite easy to understand why we love certainty and are scared to death of uncertainty. We like certainty because it makes us feel safe and secure, even though change is the only real constant in life. Besides taxes, we hate it. So this is a big part of this. Another big bucket of what stops people is like,
the unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't feel ready because I don't know what's going to be around the corner if I give it a go.
Yeah, for sure.
And, but you're never going to know unless you give it a go.
For sure. And that's where bravery comes in. That's why, to bring it all back, why we think that this is a value of bravery is that, yeah, you're going to need bravery because you're never really ready.
Yeah. And maybe a final one, Janelle, is what they're saying here is kind of a third bucket would be having unrealistic expectations and managing kind of those irrational fears. So like, so if I read some of this, there's one more trap you can fall into. People love short-term results, okay? But all real results are long-term and they come after years and years of hard work. You usually overestimate what you can achieve in a few months and underestimate what you can achieve in a few years. So there, you're never really ready. Maybe this is something that can stop you, is this sense of like, but it's going to take so long, or how am I going to know that it's worked, or this kind of short-term thinking to life, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I mean, we all love instant results. That's why a lot of our life is instant nowadays. But it is true is that, I mean, and particularly it's quite funny because the irony of it all is that if we keep waiting longer to do something because we don't think it's going to happen in a long time, then it just gets longer and longer. Versus if you start it today,
you could have been halfway to doing it by the time you really come around to saying, okay, I'm ready to do it.
Exactly. So start, like you just got to start. I listen to a couple of podcasts and a lot of them talk about I mean, they do it a lot in the context of marketing, of like, when's the best time to like start doing TikTok or like start doing Instagram, and they all say yesterday was the best time, but today's the next best time. And I think that's true with life, is like, and maybe that's another bucket, is sometimes you can feel like maybe you're already too far behind, and how are you going to catch up with people, or how are you going to get there? And it's like, yeah, maybe it would have been better to start these things yesterday, or I don't know, maybe you're 50 years old and you've got a new dream for a career that you really want to do, and you're thinking, oh, well, the government tells me that I can retire in 14 years time. There's not much time left. Like, why would I try? And it's like, no, like, you still have 14 more years, or you don't have to retire when the government tells you can retire. You can work as long as you want. But, you know, it's not too late. You still can get into those things.
Yeah. So all of this stuff, I think it comes back to a sense of you're never going to be ready. So, sure, do the preparation, but at some point, step out, pull the trigger, go for it, right? Yeah. And so, Janelle, what I thought we could do now, or what we both decided to do, I didn't think it, is a kind of quick fire round, right?
Yeah. So we thought, because a lot of the time stories are fun, that's what people relate to, of course. And so we thought we'd share with you a couple of stories. We'll do a quick fire round of one time where we stepped out to do something and it failed, and then one time where we stepped out to do it and we succeeded, or it went well.
Yeah. So these are all things, these are probably all things that we weren't ready for.
Yes.
And the point here is to say, if you're not ready for something and you step out and you be brave, there'll be times when it doesn't work.
Yeah. And
there'll be times when it does work.
Yeah.
And so it's a bit of a quick fire round.
For sure. But this is the thing, don't let the fear of failure stop you from stepping out to try it, because you will still survive. If it doesn't work and it fails, you'll still be okay, and then you create a funny story to share.
Yeah, and that's the proof right here, because we're about to share them in the quick fire round.
Yeah. Do you want to go first, Joe?
Okay, I'll go first. So, first of all, I wasn't ready. Maybe we can start like that.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready to become a micro-influencer during lockdown. Okay, so I'll tell you a quick story. COVID-19 lockdown. Essentially, we are this is early 2020. We're back in New Zealand. COVID-19 lockdown in New Zealand. Don't have much to do, so I thought to myself, I'm a keen runner, as you know, and I'm gonna pretty much set my sights full time on becoming an influencer. Then I sort of brought it down to a micro influencer,
Maybe we could just clarify, you didn't, at that stage you weren't working.
I wasn't working.
Because we're in New Zealand, your work's in France.
Yeah. And essentially I just, full time was just like, okay, I'm going to just run and just try and get free stuff from people. So I said I got sponsored, but I'd say I just got free stuff from New Balance, some shoes and some apparel.
Shout out to New Balance New Zealand.
Shout out to New Balance. And then that was semi-successful. And then I tried to get a food sponsor from Old El Paso and other people.
Potentially the problem might have been who you chose to be your food sponsor, but we won't talk about that.
And this was all in the background of I was trying to run a 10K in under 40 minutes. It was called #JogoSub40. There was a whole hashtag. The reason I say it was a fail was that it pretty much just slowly petered out. And I didn't manage to actually do the sub 40. I missed out by 12 seconds.
So close.
But super happy to have done it.
And it was a great story that brought a lot of people joy.
It brought a lot of people joy. But in a concrete sense, it was a bit of a fail. Because I'm still not an influencer. So there you go. And my success. Shall I also do that now?
Oh, should I assume?
Okay, you do your one.
Should I do my fail
You
first?
do fail.
Okay. So, I wasn't ready to do paid photo shoots before I did paid photo shoots. So pretty much when I moved to France, I had only ever done photography as a hobby. I'd never owned a professional camera. However, decided to start getting into walking tours / photo shoots. It's a very long story we'll talk about another time. And I was with a friend, and we decided to sign up on Airbnb experiences and offer these walking tours / photo shoots. And we'd taken a couple of photos of each other. We'd taken a couple of photos of each other.
Just a couple.
Just a couple. Had never taken photos of anyone else outside of photos of each other. When we decided to put this experience up on Airbnb for, I think it was €50 per person, and see if anyone booked it. Lo and behold, someone books this photo shoot, and so I was borrowing a camera from a friend that didn't even own one at the time, and we do this photo shoot, we do this walking tour, we take these photos, we get back and we're like, okay, so how do we edit them? We'd never edited before. Well, I had never, sorry, I think that my friend had. So we get on Lightroom to editing for the first time for a paid photo shoot, and it wasn't the best, let's say that. I mean, I would say they were definitely pretty good for like first time editing on Lightroom, and for the price they paid, I think it was okay. However, and I mean, so in Airbnb you get reviews for the experiences, and thankfully we got still a 5-star public review that said the experience was really lovely, the girls were so nice and interesting walking tour, and in the private feedback it was, maybe you should work a little bit more on your editing.
Lucky you got some nice people.
Luckily, exactly, because they gave the real feedback in the private, and you know what, she was right. We should have worked a bit more on the editing, but we just went for it, and now things are a lot better. Yeah.
So those are our two fails. I'm sure, like, they weren't actually very bad fails. I'm sure we've had worse ones, but
that's what we could think of.
That's what we could think of. We'll continue to share our even worse fails.
And also we'll share, we've got a lot of other fails, but we really wanted to relate this to being ready.
Being ready, exactly. You're never really ready. So now we can talk about our success stories on those, Janelle.
Yeah, go for it.
So my one, very quickly, I wasn't ready to go for an ice cream with Janelle's dad before I was dating her. And I'll explain. So essentially, Janelle and I, this is 2010, we're courting one another, I'd say. Maybe I'm doing more of the courting than you are.
Okay.
And I get a call from Janelle's dad on my phone, and he says, I hear something like this. I hear you've been taking an interest in my daughter, and I'm crapping my pants. And he says, I think we should go for an ice cream and talk it out. And I'm like, oh, okay, whoa. So, long story short, well, maybe I should just tell the middle part.
Okay, you can tell a little
Is
part.
that we go home, I talk to a friend, I say, okay, I'm going to be going for an ice cream with Janelle's dad. We need to really analyse this, analysis paralysis a little bit. And I was like, what flavour ice cream should I choose? Because I don't want him to think certain things about me. I'm not going to choose rum and raisin because I don't want him to think I like a drink. I'm not going to choose like a Goody Gumdrops, which is a New Zealand flavour.
Which is like a green ice
green.
cream
It's
with
like-
gummy bears,
It's
gummy
like
lollies.
bubble gum flavoured with lollies, and I was like,
Oh, candy.
bit immature, candy, sorry, bit immature. So I'm not going to choose that. We end up landing on French vanilla because it's vanilla. You know, vanilla is no one's favourite, but everyone likes vanilla.
It's a staple.
But it's a staple. Then add the French twist, right? Because Janelle's maiden name is Beauchamp,
Which is
and I
French
thought it added a
name.
nice twist. So I was going to choose French vanilla.
A little bit exotic.
End up arriving there at the ice cream parlour, and he's like, I might just get a coffee. And then so that whole plan's out the window. I'm thrown off. I'm not ready. But long story short, it ends up going really well. We have a great chat. And
We're married today, so it works.
yeah, we're married today. So it works. That was my quick fire success story.
Nice. Okay, and so my quick fire success story is going back to my final year in.
But what weren't you ready for?
Oh, sorry. I was I was not ready to do a presentation at a university. So yeah, going way back to my final year at high school. It was in physical education. I took PE physical education right through to year 13 and to the final year. And in the final year, we had to do these experiments, something related to physical education. I mean, this is like 10 years ago. I don't really remember the specifics, but I do remember the topic that I did this presentation on. It was about whether exercise helps your if you exercise before you do like a test or something, whether it improves your brain's functionality.
Wow.
Essentially. So that was the idea of it. So like, I mean, I did basic testing. It was just like do a like quick little maths quiz without going for an exercise, without running, and see how you do and like the speed of it. And then run around the field a couple of times, do the same test. Like, it was basic.
That's science.
It's science, though, hey? And so, anyway, what had happened is I'd gone on a...
But wait, hang on, question on that.
Yeah.
You did the same test a second time.
Yeah. I
So
think
do
I
you
might have
already
done
know
it.
there's
No, I think we must have
questions?
done different tests.
Okay, right.
I mean, I don't really remember the
Okay,
details
sorry.
of
Sorry,
it all. It was basic. But I didn't do as much, it was not thorough in the sense of, like, I didn't test it on that many people because I ran out of time because I had another school trip I was doing. So, anyway, needless to say, all the people in the physical education class, we were all going to this university, so not in our school, this college, to present these presentations that we'd done with other schools there, and then they would look at all the different presentations, like a science expo. Is that what it's called? Like a
Yeah.
science expo?
Okay.
Yeah. And then the top ones would then present in front of everyone, and you could win the science scholarship
Oh, wow.
for this university.
Like literally have some of your tuition paid for.
Yeah, exactly. And anyway, the day before we were supposed to go, I'd just been on this really long school trip, and so I said to my mum, like, oh, I'm not ready. Like, I haven't actually finished this presentation properly. I haven't prepared at all what I'm going to say.
And then she turned to you and said,
It looks pretty terrible. And she was like, well,
Janelle, you're never really ready.
pretty much along those lines. She said, you know what? You might as well just do it. What have you got to lose? Pretty much, like, you're still going, like, just do it. And so I rock up, do the thing, get chosen as a finalist somehow. To then I think there was 3 of us that then had to present in front of everybody their topic of their presentation, and one of these 3 people would win a scholarship, and lo and behold, I won somehow.
Unbelievable.
I managed to get a $3,000 scholarship science scholarship that I then was able to transfer to social
And then
work.
you didn't even study science.
I studied social sciences though,
Social
work.
sciences. Okay.
So they managed to transfer it for me. But
So you got some of your tuition paid for
yeah,
because of this random thing that you were not ready for.
I was
You
not ready
just
for
gave
it
a
at
go.
all. However, my mum encouraged me, just go, give it a go.
Amazing.
And it worked.
That
was a great success story, in fact.
Brilliant success story. Fantastic. So that was kind of the quick fire round. That
Was
wasn't
not very
so,
quick fire.
Not so quick fire in the end. But you'll forgive us because they were good stories, we hope.
And hopefully they made you laugh.
Hopefully they made you laugh. But then we thought, let's discuss maybe one other story
Yeah.
of our lives in a bit more detail around this whole thing of you're never really ready. And we touched on it just before. I brought it up actually, this whole moving to France. I thought we could discuss that in a bit more detail, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is not something that we were ready for.
No.
Did we think we were ready at the time?
I mean, it's hard to know. When
It's
you're
hard to know.
also like, I feel like some things are just a little bit easier to do when you're younger as well, because you maybe don't have as much hindsight, or I don't know.
Exactly.
There's a few things. So maybe we thought. I don't think we thought we were ready in the sense of like I didn't speak French.
Yeah. So let's paint the people a bit of a picture of what this looked like. So it's 2017, July. Janelle and I have been married for 3 years, and we'd been talking about this for a long time. Long story short is I'd lived in Paris as a very young child, from 4 to 7 years old. So I always sort of had this sense of want to go back one day and want to live there again. And I'd always talk to Janelle about this. And essentially, we'd always been discussing it since we met, since we knew it was serious, right?
Mm.
And then, as I said before, it was this sense of like, okay, we know it's something we want to do, but if it's always off in the future, are we ever going to really do it?
Mm-hmm.
And so we had that discussion. And moving here, I think it's, in hindsight now, it's been that experience of like, I don't think we were ready. But in a sense, I think that helped.
Yeah.
The fact that we didn't know that we weren't ready.
Yeah.
And we just sort of went for it. Because if we'd known all the things that were going to happen, I think maybe we would have still done it. But I think we would have thought a lot harder about doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It was a it was a test. It was a challenge. I think the biggest things that like it's really easy to try and figure out in life if you're going to make a big decision like moving. A lot of the times the things you think about are like financials, of course, because and I mean there's wisdom to that as well.
Yes.
You know, like I don't think, and we're actually this is like a little heads up of what we're going to talk about in Brave and Stupid later on in the segment maybe.
Sure.
But you know, you do have to think about like you obviously have to pay your bills, you have to eat, you have to survive. Like there is wisdom to that. However, that can be a real hindrance to stop you from doing things. And we weren't at all ready for what was to come from my income before we came here.
So literally, now thinking back, it's difficult for us to really remember what we thought Janelle was going to do for work, because she's a social worker. She was a social worker in New Zealand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we knew that you couldn't do that here because you didn't speak French, and the system's very different.
Yeah, but we kind of still had a little bit of a question of like, oh, but maybe I could work with English speakers in some variety. Like maybe I would have loved to have worked with refugees, and a lot of refugees don't speak French. So I was like, oh, I'm sure there's like a loophole or some way that that could work. Or maybe I'll just do a little bit more study and do a master's in international development, which then would give me some other jobs. Also. There were we had a couple of ideas, I think. But
and touched on it, you didn't speak French.
Yeah.
So part of us could have been like, let's wait here in New Zealand, get you more lessons, learn more French, and then we'll be ready to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad we didn't.
Yeah.
But it was still very hard, right?
It was hard, and I think that's a good point as well. Like, you're never really ready to do things. You have to go out there and just do it. It doesn't mean it's not going to be hard once you step out.
Yeah.
It probably is going to be really hard. But either way, it's going to be hard. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you don't do it as well, there'll still be other things that will be hard. So life's just hard.
Yeah.
That's the encouragement for today.
That's the encouragement for today. But honestly, looking back on that, I'm so glad that we did do it. And now, almost 5 years into living here, we're really set up. We've had some incredible experiences that we wouldn't have had back home. And yeah, just the thought of if we hadn't taken that leap, our life would be so different.
For sure, yeah. And yeah, there's like, I don't know, I think there's a difference between living a content life and living a safe life. And I think that that's something you have to really think about, because it's not for everyone to keep like always wanting more of, more adventures, more. That's not for everyone. Some people are really happy and content in life to stay in the same place, and we're not saying to you like you have to move as such, but I think what you really do need to reflect on and think about is like, is your content life, is that actually because that is really what you want, or are you just living a safe life where you're scared or you're not feeling not ready for what's next? And
it's a very good point. I think there's room, we're the kind of personalities where we do want to push ourselves and we want to see new things and experience new things. And, but there are other personalities that are much more comfortable, consistent and that. And I guess the commonality there is like, the approach is going to be different between different personalities, but regardless, our belief is that you can, your life is going to be better when it's less safe zone.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And
just because, like, that is amazing if you are content where you are and you feel fulfilled where you're living and in your job, but we would argue that that doesn't mean just to stay the same for the rest of your life. Like, there is so much in the world to learn, and whether you stay in the same town for the rest of your life, there's still, I think it's really important to still learn about the world and to learn about different cultures.
Be open to changing and
exactly
growing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that can look different. You don't have to move to another country.
No, you don't. That's just our example. But there's got to be so many other examples.
Yeah, for sure.
And I guess part of this podcast is looking and exploring ways that different people and different personalities have done that, right?
Yeah, for sure. Because everyone has, when we come back to it, everyone has a brave story. And if you don't feel like you've yet had a situation where you've had to step out in fear, then maybe that's a good challenge of what's next for you.
Yes.
What are you not ready for that maybe needs to happen?
Yeah. Because you're never really ready. Okay.
Yeah, never really ready. Okay.
Brilliant. So to finish off this episode, we thought we'd come back with our other famous segment by now.
Yeah.
It's called Brave or Stupid.
Brave or Stupid.
Brilliant. So this is the segment where we essentially pick a topic, pick something, and say, is this thing either brave or stupid? Because as we know, there's a fine line between bravery, and stupidity sometimes. And so this is a segment we're using to help us better define what bravery really is. Right, Sinead?
Yeah.
So what's the topic today?
Well, this one works in really well with our topic if you're never really ready, I think. Because it's quitting your job with no plan.
With no plan. What do you mean by no plan, though?
So I would say, like, no plan in the sense of, well, you don't have another job, or you don't have, like, if you quit a job, there's a few different things. You could quit a job to go into another job, or you could quit a job because you're going to train, or you're going to do more study, or you're going to have like a gap year, or that's like a plan. So this is a quitting a job, and I would say it in the situation of like, you're not enjoying your job, so you quit it without having a next step. Is that brave or stupid?
Is that brave or stupid? That's the question of today.
Yeah, and I mean, you're gonna see with all of our questions is that it's really a matter of perspective.
It is. You may well disagree, but we have decided that we are the arbiters of bravery or stupidity. No, jokes.
Because we have a podcast about what is bravery, we will tell you what is brave.
We will tell you. No, you can get in touch with us and tell us what you think about this at our Instagram at braveandlucky.life. But anyway,
sure. You're welcome. We welcome you to have your own opinion and to disagree with us.
we welcome multiple viewpoints.
Yeah. However, in nice ways.
In nice ways.
We don't need any of this internet hatred.
No,
going
please,
on.
no.
This is not
We're
a
very
space for that.
sensitive people. Okay.
No, but it's a brave space where everyone can be vulnerable and share openly.
Exactly.
Not with hatred.
So, Jill, did you ever thought on this?
Yeah, I think it's tricky because you kind of need a bit more context, because I would say in one sense, like, if you are being abused or not treated well, or your like value is being attacked, then I think it's very brave to stop that.
Right.
Like, I think that's where it's like a line, do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Of like, you have to protect your own value and who you are. And so
Yes,
in that
I guess,
sense...
Yeah, in that sense it's brave.
Yes.
The answer to this is, it depends. Like a lot of questions in life. I think
It
it's
does,
the right
no,
answer.
it's true. I think it's true as well.
Life is more grey than it is black and white a lot
For sure.
of times.
And it gets grayer and grayer
Grey
the
and
more
grey.
you start to learn, doesn't it?
Yeah. So in that situation, are we brave?
Yeah, for sure. And
Because essentially you're saying, I'm worth more than this situation.
for sure, I could give you a little quick example of when I did that.
Okay. Oh yeah.
When I was in high school as well, I had a quick stint working in a cafe. I worked in a cafe 2 or 3 Saturdays, and one of the Saturdays, the chef, I was carrying out a eggs Benedict, and the poached eggs fell off and broke.
Oh no.
And so I had to take it back to the chef, and the chef yelled at me, and I was like, excuse me, this is my second day, like, give me a little bit of grace. And then maybe that was the second time. There was, anyway, 2 times, for example, I made a mistake. Maybe I like broke a glass or something.
In 2 days.
In 2 days.
That's okay.
But like, yeah, sure, maybe I shouldn't have made. Maybe I did 3 seasons. I don't remember. It's a blur. It's way back. But pretty much the second time the chef yelled at me, I literally looked at him and I was like, excuse me, I don't need this in my life. Like, this is not a positive environment.
Yeah.
And yeah, I quit that day. And I know for me that comes from a privileged situation. Of I was a high school student. I didn't need a job at that time.
You lived with your parents.
It would be different if I needed a job. This was just I'm high school. I need money to have an allowance to like do extracurricular. I wasn't, you know.
Yeah.
But in that sense, I was like, you know what? You don't have the right to yell at me for like little mistakes that I'm in the learning process.
Yeah.
And so
That's brave.
I quit, and I was brave. And in that situation, it was brave because I didn't have people reliant on me for money and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I would say. In other situations, it's not so brave, it's a bit more stupid. What are some of those situations?
Well, I think it comes back to what we were discussing today around this doesn't mean you don't prepare for things, right? So like having no plan speaks to me about not being prepared. And I think that the difference between bravery and stupidity in a lot of places and in this situation is taking time to prepare, getting the information you need. The whole thing we've been talking about today around you're never really ready, sure, give it a go, but there's a situation where you're never really ready and you're not ready.
And you're actually not
and
ready.
You're actually not ready versus you're never really ready and okay, but it could still work.
Yeah.
You know, so I think preparedness, I don't necessarily have
I could give an example
Yeah.
for this. So, and I've had a lot of people, so because I'm a entrepreneur, that's my job, I have a lot of people asking me how to transition from a full-time job to being their own boss. And I tell all of them that, yeah, like go for it. I 100% recommend doing that. However, before you do that, make sure you have savings, because for the first 6 months to a year, well, at least a year, you're not guaranteed to be earning consistent income. Like for the first year, the stat is ridiculous. I can't remember of how many businesses actually survive past the first year when they start. So I always tell people, like, you don't need a crazy amount of savings. but you need enough to get you through at least 6 months without to be able to pay your basic needs, and then after that. So I think that that's a thing of like, yeah, sure, go for it, but make sure that you're prepared, and particularly if you have children, if you have a mortgage, if you have things that you're dependent on, that are dependent on you, sorry. You have to be wise in that sense.
Yeah, and that shifts the balance between bravery and stupidity.
Yeah, for sure.
In some ways, in our opinion, in our humble opinion.
Humble, yeah.
Yeah. So Janelle, I think that's all the time we have. Man, we've gone quite long today.
Well, we have a lot to talk
it's
about
been
being ready.
About never being ready.
Yeah. Well, we hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think. Tell us your own stories of when you weren't ready and you went for something. If you have fail stories, we'd love to hear them.
Yes, get in touch with us. Send us a DM at braveandlucky.life on Instagram. It's down in the show notes in the podcast, or the show notes on YouTube.
Yes, I'd also like to say if you have success stories, we'd also like to hear them.
We'd love to hear them too.
We'd love to hear all your stories.
Yes.
But for now, that's us. See you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.